while they pretend to be indifferent and emotionally untouchable. Your avoidant is secretly terrified of the power you have over them and completely obsessed with every aspect of your existence. You represent everything they want and everything they fear wrapped up in one person, creating a psychological fixation they can't escape no matter how much distance they create. Their fear of you is matched only by their inability to stop thinking about you. You terrify them because you see through everything. What scares them most about you is your ability to see past every defense mechanism, manipulation tactic, and protective facade they've spent years perfecting. You don't fall for their mysterious act. Their emotional unavailability doesn't intimidate you, and their hot and cold behavior doesn't keep you off balance the way it does everyone else. This transparency feels psychologically threatening because they've built their entire identity around being unknowable and emotionally impenetrable. You strip away their mystique effortlessly, seeing them as clearly as if they were made of glass. They can't hide from you, can't manipulate you, and can't maintain their emotional superiority when you're around. The terror comes from feeling completely exposed and vulnerable with someone who could use that knowledge to destroy them if they wanted to. You have access to their psychological blueprint in ways that make them feel naked and defenseless, which is the exact opposite of how they're used to feeling in relationships. They're obsessed with your unpredictability. Your refusal to follow their expected relationship scripts has made you endlessly fascinating to their analytical minds. They spend countless hours trying to figure out your patterns, predict your responses, and understand your motivations because you don't behave the way their psychology textbook says you should. This obsession with decoding you consumes their mental energy in ways they've never experienced before. They analyze every conversation, every expression, every response you give them, looking for clues about how your mind works and what makes you different from everyone else they've encountered. Your unpredictability keeps them psychologically engaged in ways that predictable people never could. They're addicted to the mental challenge of understanding someone who operates by completely different rules than they're used to navigating. You scare them because you don't need their approval. Your complete indifference to their opinion of you is both terrifying and intoxicating because they've never encountered someone who genuinely doesn't care about earning their validation. Every other person they've known has sought their approval, tried to impress them, or worked to win their affection. This independence from their approval strips away their primary source of power and control in relationships. They can't manipulate someone who doesn't need their validation, can't control someone who doesn't seek their praise, and can't feel superior to someone who doesn't consider their opinion particularly important. The fear comes from realizing they have no leverage over you, while you have tremendous power over them. The dynamic they're used to controlling has been completely reversed, leaving them in the vulnerable position they usually force others into. They're secretly obsessed with your emotional strength. Your ability to remain emotionally centered regardless of their behavior both amazes and terrifies them. They're used to their emotional unavailability creating chaos, anxiety, and desperate pursuit in others. Your emotional stability in the face of their patterns makes you seem almost superhuman to their psychology. This strength is fascinating because it suggests you have access to emotional resources and regulation skills they've never developed. They're obsessed with understanding how you maintain your peace when their behavior is specifically designed to create emotional turbulence in others. Your emotional strength also scares them because it means they can't control your emotional state through their usual tactics of withdrawal, mixed signals, and intermittent attention. You remain steady regardless of their emotional weather, which makes you unpredictable and uncontrollable. You terrify them because you could actually help them heal. Deep down, they recognize that you have the emotional capacity and understanding necessary to help them heal their deepest wounds and overcome their attachment disorders. This potential for transformation is both what they most want and what they most fear, because healing would require dismantling their entire defensive structure. You represent their best chance of becoming emotionally healthy, but that possibility terrifies them, because it would mean facing all the trauma and pain they've spent their lives avoiding. You could save them, but being saved requires vulnerability they're not sure they can survive. The obsession with you includes obsession with the version of themselves they could become if they were brave enough to let you help them heal. They're simultaneously drawn to, and terrified of, their potential for growth and transformation. They're obsessed with how you make them feel. Being around you creates feelings in them that are completely foreign and overwhelming. You make them feel safe and terrified, loved and exposed, calm and anxious all at the same time. This emotional complexity is unlike anything they've experienced before, making you endlessly fascinating and psychologically compelling. They're obsessed with trying to understand how you have the power to make them feel so much when they've spent their entire lives trying to feel as little as possible. Your presence breaks through their emotional numbness in ways that are both healing and terrifying. The intensity of feelings you create in them becomes addictive because it makes them feel alive in ways they'd forgotten were possible. They're scared of how much they need those feelings and how powerless they are to create them without you. You scare them because you see their potential, your ability to see who they could become, rather than just who they are now, is both inspiring and terrifying. You don't just love their current broken self, you see their capacity for growth, healing and transformation into someone capable of genuine love and intimacy. This vision of their potential puts pressure on them to evolve beyond their current limitations, which feels overwhelming and impossible. They're scared of disappointing you by proving they can't become the person you see in them, but they're also terrified of the vulnerability required to actually grow. Your belief in their potential makes them question whether they're selling themselves short by staying stuck in their patterns, but change feels too risky and uncertain to attempt safely. They're obsessed with your mystery. While they think they're the mysterious ones, you've become the real enigma they can't solve. Your depth, complexity, and emotional intelligence create layers they're constantly trying to uncover and understand. You're the puzzle they can't solve, which makes you infinitely more interesting than people they can figure out easily. This mystery keeps them psychologically hooked because they need to understand you completely but can't quite get there. Every interaction reveals new aspects of who you are, while simultaneously creating new questions about your inner world. The fear-obsession cycle. Their fear of you feeds their obsession, and their obsession intensifies their fear, creating a psychological cycle they can't break. They're terrified of your power over them but can't stop thinking about you, analyzing you and wanting to understand you completely. You've become their greatest fear and their deepest obsession wrapped into one person, someone who could heal them or destroy them, and they can't tell which one scares them more.